If you're planning to move to Australia, you're probably thinking, is it still worth it? Is it as easy back then compared to now when you're trying to move to Australia? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of living in Australia. So before we go down the list, why did you want to move to Australia? Well, in my case, I was single, broke, and jobless at the time, but I saw this interview of a big white burly man with gray long beard talking to the journalist, and he was shouting, "Oh, these immigrants, they're just taking our jobs, our women, and our properties." So I went to Australia to see if that was true. Then I got myself a good job with multi-six-figure salary, bought 2 rental properties here in Australia and 1 in my home country. Then I got married in Australia, and me and my wife now have 2 beautiful, half Caucasian, half Asian, handsome boys. So basically they're Coke-Asian. Get it? Get it? Because they're half Caucasian and then half Asian. If you combine that together, that's Caucasian. See? Jokes are always better when you explain them. Anyways, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the cost of living here in Australia. As we all know, cost of living normally increases every single year. If we look back at the prices, a grocery worth $100 back in 2017 is now roughly around $125 in today's cost of living. Now, since we're talking about groceries, we're going to use an example of a carton of eggs. A carton of eggs is basically 12 or 1 dozen of eggs per box. Back in the 1990s, you can literally buy a carton of eggs for $1 to $2 per carton. Move forward to 2017, when I first arrived here in Australia, you can buy 1 carton for $2 to $3. Fast forward to today, it's now at $8 per carton. Since you're moving to Australia, one trick that I would suggest is to make sure that you don't forget your human forex calculator. What does that mean? Basically, when you're moving from one country to another, like for example, myself, I used to live in the Philippines when I moved here in Australia. However, I normally just convert anything that I purchase into my own currency, which is peso, and think if it's worth it or not to purchase that item. Gradually, as we all get accustomed to the life here in Australia, you're going to lose that kind of mentality. Now, if you really want to save, you need to make sure that you keep that in your back pocket. Now, we're going to talk about rent. Back in 1990s, a standard house in Sydney and Melbourne would just cost you $200 a week to rent. Fast forward to 2017, you're looking at somewhere around $400 to $500 per week for a standard house. But now, in 2025, it's somewhere around $650 to $750. I've actually created a video regarding this, and you can click the link below so that you can watch the video. Now, I know you're probably thinking that the costs that I just laid out is very scary. However, the truth is, it's all relevant. The reason why is if we go to the next section that we're going to talk about, which is the employment or the job market. In Australia, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the median income for an individual is at $1,396 per week, while if you calculate that annually, that's roughly around $72,000 a year. However, for some reason, Australian Bureau of Statistics also says that the average is over $100,000 a year in 2025. Now, I know that everyone here is going to think, well, that's not true, nobody's getting that. The reason why it's $100,000 is because a lot of the high-income earners drags the average salary across the nation. Now, is it easy to get jobs? Well, let me tell you that the unemployment rate at the moment is at 4.2%, which is relatively low, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna get a job immediately, especially if you're thinking that you're going to get multi-six-figure income on your first year here in Australia. But if you put in the time, effort, and proper planning, you can actually make it. Now, compared to other countries, in one study, Australia is actually ranked 7th of the highest average incomes in the world. The next thing on the list is they have world-class healthcare. Now, here in Australia, we do have Medicare, which means most of the costs that you'll incur when dealing with health would be free. However, there's always drawbacks on it. If what you need is certain surgeries, then you might have to wait on a wait list. And the medical system here is top-notch, so your chances of getting cured is a lot more higher. You also have the alternative to get your own private health coverage, but it's a bit more pricey. Now, Australia is a multicultural society. That means you'll have other peoples from all over the world that's living here in Australia. I had friends from Latin America who's never tried Indian food, but the moment that they moved here and tried some of the dishes, it automatically became their favorite dish. And the good thing about this as well is that you'll learn from other cultures, which means you're gonna be more open-minded on the other perspectives of each individual cultures. However, for some reason, this is happening right now. Yes, there's a rising movement against migrants. However, we're not gonna talk about that right now because the truth is, regardless of this, Australia is still one of the best countries out there to move. Now, if you're coming from a third world country like myself, public safety and political stability is the hot topic right now. In Australia, the crimes here is very low, to the point wherein an example would be if a major crime such as murder has been committed here in Australia, it becomes a major news for at least 1 week. And everyone gets hyped up. But I talk to my Aussie friends and tell them that in the Philippines, that's just a regular Tuesday. This is the difference between third world countries and first world countries, wherein every crime out here in Australia is sensationalized. In the Philippines, if there's a crime, you're pretty much none to it. I mean, just look at our political system right now. There's massive corruption in the government, but we're kind of used to it. Now we're going to talk about the climate. If you're like me who came in from a tropical country, Australia has 4 seasons. And I'm not talking about the hotel, which I used to work for, but I'm talking about the cycles of seasons. Now you have your winter, spring, fall, and summer. Now the winter here is not as bad as Canada, Alaska, or Russia. Now the main difference here in Australia is that it seems like it's a lot more severe because of the sudden drop in temperature. What you'll have is coming from 36 to 42 degrees Celsius during summer down to -7 degrees on winter, or fall. There's little to no time of adjustment. Last but not the least, Australia is located in the bottom of the globe, which means everything is so far. If you moved here to Australia and you're planning to visit your country, then it will take you a lot of hours before you even get out of the airspace here in Australia. One example would be a flight coming from Sydney to Western Australia will take you 8 hours. And the funny thing is, if you're going from Australia to Bali, let's say your flight is coming from Melbourne, after 4 hours of flying on the sky, you could still see that your plane is in Australia. And that's pretty much it. Before you move here to Australia, you need to make sure that you weigh the pros and cons and see if it actually is the right country for you to move to. Now, personally, Australia is still the best place to migrate for myself, which is why I'm creating these videos to help migrants such as myself. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe so that we can continue in creating videos like this to help people.